Hello, my name is Alex Cushing, and this is my talk about human rights in Kazakhstan. In the United States of America, the First Amendment to the Constitution is the freedom of speech. This means that every citizen, regardless of age, religion, or any other factor, is allowed to express themselves however they want. In Kazakhstan, however, this is not the case. On December 16, 2001, workers gathered to protest in the oil-rich city of Zanahozen. They were protesting unfair working conditions in the town square. The police and government decided this form of protest illegal and ordered to stop the protesters. Shots broke out, and by the end of the day, 14 protesters were killed. This is just one of many examples of the oppression that Kazakhs face every single day. A society where people are not allowed to speak negative thoughts about their government. A new law has been called to action that states for independent media when independent media releases information, it must first confer with the president of Kazakhstan. At the moment, the president of Kazakhstan is Nursultan Nazarbayev. He's been in charge of Kazakhstan as president since December 1991. That's 23 years. Since 1920, Kazakhstan has been part of the Soviet Union until it broke up in 1995. Independent Kazakhstan officially released its constitution as a free nation. In the constitution, it seems that everyone has the right to freedom of speech, and censorship is prohibited. However, this is often not the case. The government has reportedly banned rights for certain ethnic groups and types of people. Also, many forms of media and broadcasts have been censored due to their non-positive views of the government. The government and its president are definitely benefiting from the censorship, but this is at the expense of the freedom of their citizens. In 2012 alone, there have been 16 criminal charges and 86 civil cases for defamation of the government. This abuse of freedom of speech has to be stopped now in Kazakhstan. Before 1948, the Soviet Union was comprised of Kazakhstan, Russia, and most Eastern European countries. In the Soviet Union, the use of censorship was strictly enforced. The government controlled all printed items, movies, radio, and television broadcasts, and many other outlets. It also censored many forms of literature. Works of press, advertisements, product labels, and books were also censored by Gavlet, an agency established to safeguard top-secret information from foreign entities. Historically, Russia had been technologically inferior to the West. Religious intolerance and atheism was another goal of post-World War II censorship, and was an extension of anti-Westernization. In 1991, the USSR broke up, splitting the empire into dozens of different countries. In 1995, the Kazakhstan government wrote the national constitution, signifying that it has separated from the Soviet Union. The constitution stated that there was freedom of speech for all citizens. This is a step forward in the right direction from censoring everything. However, the government has not upheld in this ruling. Currently, the freedom of press and the media is still being censored. The Kazakhstan constitution says that they protect the freedom of speech. However, there have been numerous examples where it has been violated. This piece of evidence has been taken directly from the Kazakhstan Constitution. Article 1. The freedom of speech and creative activity shall be guaranteed. Censorship shall be prohibited. According to this constitution, all citizens are guaranteed freedom of speech. It clearly states that everyone is guaranteed the right to speak their mind, no matter what they have to say. This is similarly structured to the U.S. Constitution, which says in the First Amendment that everyone is guaranteed the freedom of speech. Based on this document, it makes everyone believe that they are protected. However, in the next source, this does not seem to be the case. Freedom House, a website that conducts research and evaluates every country based on its freedom status, reported that on February 19th, the Senate passed amendments to a number of laws for the protection of children from information harmful to their health and development. Authorities in Kazakhstan commonly use these regulations to fine, harass, and close print publications from regulations that will likely be used in the same fashion against online publications. The clause banning propaganda of a non-traditional orientation was also introduced. This report is especially appalling, but not just because of the freedoms of the government that have been restricted from their citizens. What is worst about this event is that the government has even written this in the Constitution. It clearly stated that the freedom of speech is guaranteed. However, the banning of propaganda of a non-traditional orientation does not seem like people are able to express themselves at all. According to this website, the press in Kazakhstan is considered not free, meaning that forms of independent media and newspaper are not fully to give the citizens the full information. The Kazakhstan government is very keen on banning any negative media about their leaders or government. In a court in Almaty, Kazakhstan, creators of a nightclub advertisement were fined $150,000 for moral damages, showing a Russian and Kazakh national hero kissing. Once again, the freedom of these people are restricted. How are they not allowed to show their advertisements if they're not allowed to be the least bit creative? Does it really matter if the ad is based on something awkward? This is to the fault of the advertising company, so it will not harm others. This is another clear violation of the freedom of speech because it does not allow people to express their creative thoughts. This next quote was taken from ifix.org, an organization dedicated to maintaining freedom of speech. This website brings up issues of freedom of expression in the world and encourages people to speak up, to take a stand. During the 2005 election in Kazakhstan, independent media are also being targeted for several politically motivated government lawsuits accusing journalists of insulting officials' honor and dignity, says Human Rights Watch. At least 4 newspapers are facing legal action for publishing comments critical of senior government officials. Is it not suspicious that the same president has now won elections term after term? He has been the president for literally the entirety of Kazakhstan's existence for over 20 years. Something must have happened for him to allow him to rule so long, and it probably was not using fair play. Based on these actions, the president has not treated everyone equally and respected their freedom of speech. Although this country is relatively new in the development of a free nation, Kazakhstan has not succeeded in granting freedom of speech to all its citizens. However, this can be fixed without much difficulty. In order to fulfill its constitutional promises, the Kazakhstan government should limit the amount of restrictions of freedom of speech, because it's the people's constitutional right to be exposed to the truths from the outside world. This can be done in 3 simple steps. First, don't put newspapers in jail for their posts being too negative. This just gives the public more reason not to trust the government. Some people are never pleased with their government, and you cannot change that. Instead, try to appease to the majority of people. Next, allow the media to speak freely. If the people are not exposed to everything the world has to offer, then everyone will become mindless drones spouting out propaganda that you spread. Finally, allow public access to government records. The freedom of information is an important right to allow because it allows the public to trust what the government is doing. These citizens deserve the right to be able to know what is happening with their government. By achieving these 3 tasks, the nation of Kazakhstan shall be able to move forward and advance in allowing the freedom of speech. Thank you for listening to my talk.